Oh, hello there. Welcome to the video. Today, we are going to go over 6 books that made me a billionaire by the time I was 14 years old. Not really. I'm not sure what I'm going to call this video. All I know is I'm going to share with you 6 books. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, and 1 bonus book that I wasn't sure whether to put in or not. 6 books and 1 bonus book that I believe will help you make more money in your business. I've been excited to make this video because books have been actually a huge part of my life and my journey. And I remember when I got home from working in Ibiza, I was 19 doing a season in Ibiza, and I came home when I was 20. And I got home and it was time for me to start taking work and life and business and everything else seriously. At that point, I was a personal trainer. I had no idea what to do. I'd also got home and it was just about to go into winter and stuff like this. And the only thing that I could think to do was read. So every single morning, I'd wake up, I'd have a coffee. I was having it in a cafetiere back then because I had no clue about coffee, and cafetiere coffee is actually quite horrible. I'd have a coffee and I'd read an hour of a book. And I do that every single day. 10 years later, I still do that. I don't read for an hour anymore. In fact, I put a timer on for 25 minutes and I stop when it hits 25 minutes. Otherwise, I end up reading too long. I read so many different books. I think it's a cheat code to knowledge. And I'm going to talk about this very specifically with this one here, this second one. But so many books have so much amazing knowledge and information in it, and so many people just don't read books. And also, a goal of mine, or something I'm going to make happen, is I would love to be an author myself. And this year, before I've become 31, I'm going to be writing my first book, and then there's going to be way more to come. So I like this topic. And in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 6 books that I believe have turned me into a person that can generate a lot of money and will continue to do so. The books are not going to be the generic kind of books that you see all of the time, and they're not going to be generic business books. To be honest, I don't find business books that useful. I have read a lot of them. I also don't even find straight personal development books very useful either. Straight personal development books are just kind of, I find, just scratching the surface of things, and they don't really give you much. I think the best book is the one that kind of shifts your perspective in the way that you see the world. We're all wearing different glasses, and the way that we see the world and the information that we let in and how we filter that and how we understand it. I think the best books are the ones that actually shift your state and your way of being and the way that you see the world, not ones that give you bullet points of what to do. And business books I just find really boring. I hate reading about different airlines in America and how one was cheaper than the other, and there's always the same stories and everything else. And for my business information, I much prefer to learn from someone who's doing it right now and learn in real time and pay them a lot of money. So these books are going to be ones that you may not have heard of, all of these, probably a few that you have, and what they actually helped me with. So let's get into it. I'm making this up as I go, by the way. I didn't take any notes. Number 1 is this bad boy here. This took me a year to read. You might know what it is by then. There's like 711 pages, or probably a little bit more. That was like almost to the end. And it's dense. I had to take breaks while I was reading this, but this is one of the most transformational books I've ever read. And it's, one of those books, it's good because so frequently, at least every single week, I think back to the principles in this book. I reference them, I think about it in my own mind, and it genuinely has changed the way that I operate in the world and I see the world. And that is reality transurfing. So when I started to hear about this book, I started to see it everywhere. And everyone that I was kind of learning from that made a lot of money had read this book. This is kind of like manifestation on steroids, but this book is so much more than that. It's more of a operating manual for the universe. And there's a lot of stuff in there that might be a little bit strange and out there and different. And you do want to read it with an open mind. But right at the end, and I wish it said this to me at the start, but right at the end of this book, the guy who wrote it, Vadim Zeland, says, I don't know how the universe works. Everything I've said in here is a model to help you understand it. All that I know is that following these principles works. Because he makes some big claims about how the universe works, and obviously we don't really know that. But one thing that I can definitely agree with is the principles in this book seem to work. Whether it's some sort of magical universal thing or it's just kind of a physical thing that seems to happen when you stick to these principles, this is a really good book. Some of the biggest things that kind of I embodied from this book is, number one, the mirror principle. How when we want to change our life, when we want to change our situation, when we want to change our reality, it's kind of like we are standing here and we're looking in a mirror. The mirror being the external world and the us being like our internal world. And so often we wait until, in real life, we wait until the reality shifts for us to be this new person. But that's just as crazy as standing in the mirror and waiting for the mirror to smile at you before you smile at the mirror. In this book, it talks about how you need to be the person who has your goals first before that reality will ever come into fruition. You need to feel the sensations of being in that goal and that reality that you're trying to get towards. You need to feel that feeling. You need to embody it. And as soon as you can do that, and by the way, then once you start to do that, I do it after meditation every single morning. After you do that, you're going to get out into your external world and you're going to see everything that's not exactly that. And then the challenge is to continue to act from this place, continue to make decisions and react from this place. If you can maintain that, it's only a matter of time until reality catches up. There's a huge amount more in here around pendulums, controlling your energy, sucking your energy. This is a really, really, really good book, and I suggest you read it. The second one's taken a bit of a different approach. This was recommended to me once, and I saw the book, and I quite like these like spiritual kind of books. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a go. Honestly, it kind of actually transformed my life in a way, because once I read this book, I paid the same author and the same company £12,000 to go and do a qualification with them. That's how much I loved this book, and a qualification to become a peak performance coach. And it changes the way that you think about performance and how you work and creativity. And really big one in here is flow state, and it is the art of impossible. So this is written by Stephen Kotler, who runs the company Flow Research Collective. And honestly, this is funny. You remember at the start I said about these books have so much knowledge in them. So I read this book and it was amazing. And then I wanted to work with them, and I spent £12,000 to get a qualification and be qualified in this thing. And the first half of that course was their peak performance program, and then you go into their peak performance coaching program where they teach you to become the coach. Their peak performance program, which was 8 weeks, is the book. There's really very little difference apart from a little bit more hands-on and a little bit more accountability. It was still in a group. It was still everything else. So read this and implement it. It says something in here that's really, I might be getting it wrong at this point. I might have forgotten exactly what it says, but it says something in here that really stood out to me. And it is neurology, is that the one? Brain science, scales, personality fails, or something like that. And it talks about how a lot of these personal development books are written around personality. So it's written because it worked for someone or it worked for someone else, and they're kind of sharing that. In this book, it speaks all from science-backed principles of the mind And the word is escaping me right now. It's like neurology. It's not neurology, is it? Neuroscience. That's the word. Neuroscience scales. Neuroscience is going to be very, very similar for everyone. Everything in here is backed on neuroscience. How to set up your workday, how to work, how to set up your goals. And I still use all of this to this day. How to literally trigger flow state, which is like, if you can hit it, it's like a superpower in terms of productivity and everything else. Especially if you think you can be more productive, give this a read. Okay, this next one, my friend Jordan told me to read this for ages. And I just thought the name was boring, so I didn't read it for ages. And I've been around the block when it comes to being coached by, like, you know, personal coaches, mindset coaches, all kinds of coaches, right? And when I finally got around to reading this book, it was crazy how every single coach that I'd worked with mentioned something out of this book, an actual model or like an actual distinction out of this book. The book is Straight Line Leadership. It's quite a hard book to get hold of. It's I think it's like £100 if you, or like around that price if you want to get the physical book. But of course, you can get the ebook really easily. Straight Line Leadership is a really, really good book written by like a professional coach. And the entire book is just distinctions. Distinctions such as, are you pleasing your clients or are you serving your clients? Are you reacting or are you creating? And every single one is a different kind of mental model that you, and there's probably like 50 in there, a different mental model that you can kind of like sear into your brain. I've kind of like read it 1.5 times now. Sear into your brain and always come back to. And one thing that this book's really good at is getting you or anyone, because if you read this, you're probably a coach. If you read this, you can take these distinctions and use them in your own coaching, and they're really, really useful. You or anyone that you're helping. It's really good for being able to get people out of the stories that they're telling themselves and into action and momentum. Because the author of this book kind of simplifies everything. And he implies that a lot of the things that we allow ourselves to be held back by, such as, oh, you know, this happened to me and my mum took my dinner away once, so now I don't want to go and do sales calls or this or that, all these things, it kind of implies that they are only as real as you make them. And often it is just being able to be on the straight line and moving forwards and dealing with the things that come that actually get us out of that. And it really gets us out of the stories that we can easily live in. And it makes one major distinction at the start, which is, are you either a circle, a zigzag person, or a straight line person? And obviously, if you're trying to go from A to B, straight line is the fastest way to be able to get to any destination. Most people are going in circles. Some people are kind of going in zigzags, but not really getting anywhere. And this teaches you to be on the straight line. Third one, fourth one, The Way of the Superior Man. I'd heard about this book for a very long time. This one, again, probably changed my life. Again, it got me spending thousands of pounds and going and working with people. I'll talk about that in a second. This one I'd seen a lot for years. And it was only when I was working with a hypnotherapist that he suggested I read this book. Actually, no, he didn't. He sent me, for David Deida, the author, he sent me a talk from David Deida. So I listened to that and it was mind-blowingly good. And I knew that he had written this book, so I had to go out and get this book. And honestly, even if you're watching this and somehow you've got this far and you're not in business, this is probably essential reading for any man. Or any masculine cord being, actually. It talks about heavily masculine and feminine energies. And it's not necessarily male and female energies. There might be like women with more masculine cores. There might be men with more feminine cores. But this is a book for anyone that is kind of has a masculine core. It talks about purpose. It talks about the relationship with the feminine, whether that is your partner, whether that is your the world as a feminine, and whether that's business. Often, if we're selling people and we have clients, we're often in a masculine feminine relationship there, not necessarily male and female, but just as a dynamic. And also if we're like trying to sell someone. So understanding the dynamic and the difference and everything like that, this book is really, really good for. Goes deep into purpose, and it goes very deep into relationship as well. This really changed how I show up as a man in the world as a whole. Like genuinely, it changed that a lot. It changed how I show up in relationships a lot. And I also suggested this to one of my friends who is the least spiritual person I've ever met, and often the most close-minded. And even he said that it completely changed his outlook on things, especially in his relationship. I told you I'd tell you the story of this. So then I read this. It was so good. I wanted to learn more. I continued to look for David Deida stuff, but there wasn't as much. But someone who worked very closely with him called John Wineland showed up on YouTube, and I started to watch loads of that. And John Wineland had learned very, very closely from David Deida. And I ended up joining a 10-month men's group with not this guy, with John Wineland, 50 men. I went over to California. We did work over there, and that experience changed my life completely. It was really, really good. The fifth one. Now, as you've seen, a lot of these, or all of them, have nothing necessarily to do with business. That is intentional. I think a lot of what we learn, a lot of our edge in business comes from the things that we take from outside of business. For example, if you're a fitness coach, yes, you can get, and you should be a very good fitness coach, but a lot of the edge, your edge in your brand, in your marketing, in your offers, is going to come from what can you bring from outside of the niche. And often unique ideas are being able to link two things together, right? So this is why you see this theme of these books are actually nothing to do with business, but can shift the way that you're kind of seeing everything. You can kind of put new glasses on and see the world in a different way. Now, one of my principles when it comes to business is compete through creativity. You know this by now. You know I make the distinction between an idea-driven business and a force-driven business. Most people are trying to build their business on force, and they're trying to compete through force. Who can hire the most people? Who can send the most DMs? Whereas me and my people want to stand out with their ideas. We want to compete through creativity. And I honestly think if you look at any big business, most of them have been big business, big coaching business, whatever it is, they've been innovative and they've brought something new to the market and they've magnetized people in because of that. So because of all of that, the next book is The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. This is such a good book. All of my clients, well, so many of my clients get onto reading this book. Many of these books are back there on my shelf, and they're behind on every single call and people see them. And this one always goes down a treat whenever anyone reads it. It is all about creativity. It is all about creativity, but it's not a step-by-step manual on how to be creative. It's more of a almost written like philosophy around how to think and be around the topic of creativity. I really love this. It starts you think about the world and see the world and creativity in a different light. And it's also written really nicely. It's written like poetry, and it's also very like that. It's a little bit longer than that, but like short chapters, you can just read one. This lives in my bag. I've got a sauna downstairs. This lives in my bag. And when my little spa bag, and when I go down to the sauna afterwards, I read 1 or 2 chapters of this every night. And it kind of just gets me into the state that I want to constantly be in. And the final one, I saw one of my mentors talk about this book and I got it. and I might have just got it at the perfect time. You know, sometimes you read a book and it's at the perfect time and it just hits perfectly. But this book felt truly transformative to me. And the reason why this is in here, especially when it comes to making money, because as you can see, I'm kind of tying these all back to making money, is because, and I now see this not only through my own experience, but my experience with clients as well. One of the biggest things that kills coaches' businesses or stagnates them and keeps them not growing is their emotional world. Business is a roller coaster. Business is hard. You know, we go through a lot when we're trying to build a business, of self-doubt, of everything else. We experience a lot. And when we let our emotions get the better of us and they rule our world, we are not in a good place to be able to scale a business. So the final one here, and then I'll show you the bonus one, but the final one of the 6 is Letting Go by David Hawkins. David Hawkins, I've read so many of his books now. I absolutely love his books, his work, and everything else. But Letting Go was the first book that I read, and it was probably the most transformative. In this book, he talks about this technique, the letting go technique. It's literally in the first couple of pages around being able to let go and surrender to emotions. You're not necessarily letting them go. You're surrendering to the emotion. You're allowing yourself to feel it. You're not putting stories on it. You're just feeling it. You're whatever needs to happen to express it, and you're letting it go. It goes through, I won't be able to get it up now, but it goes through the scale of consciousness and all these different, which is, you've probably seen that thing before, and this is something that David Hawkins actually created. And how we can let go of all of these emotions. One of the things it talks about in here, which I think is really powerful, is, and this is right at the beginning, what you hold inside will color your world. So if we repress or suppress emotions that we don't really want to feel, it will color your world. If you suppress a load of anger or repress a load of anger, you will see lots of things that make you angry. Sadness, you will see, and sadness, right? And this talks about how to let go of this stuff. Especially for men, I think this is a really, really good book, because often we're not very good at feeling our emotions and being in touch with them and letting them pass through. Instead, we try not to look at them, try not to deal with them, do whatever we can to avoid them. And before you know it, we're numb. And one thing that I often say is, if you have a habit of not allowing yourself to surrender to the negative feelings, and you're just kind of suppressing them or repressing them or anything else, you just become numb, because you don't allow yourself to feel the good emotions either. You kind of detach yourself away from everything. And I think that happens to a lot of guys. They stop themselves from feeling anything, and they're just numb. And I also think in business, if we're trying to compete through creativity, all of the creatives, all of the thinkers and creatives, they were almost crazy because of how sensitive they were. Because sensitivity is essential. There was so art and creativity is your own personal relationship with the world or the things that you observe, and your feelings and everything else, and how it makes you feel. If you are becoming numb to all of these things because you're not letting go or surrendering to these things, you lose that ability to fully express yourself. And I think that's really, really important. So whether it's the ability to stay neutral when things are happening and not reacting too quickly, or the ability to actually be sensitive when you want to be, also having the control, but when you want to be, and being able to be in touch with these things to be able to have that intuition, that creativity and stuff like that. Really, really good book. The final one, this is a bonus one, because actually I've reread it and it was actually kind of boring. The New Psycho-Cybernetics. I reread this recently, It's such a good and important concept, but it's so boring. That's why it's not being counted, because it's the message from it that is more important. The message from it is this: we are goal striving mechanisms. Apparently, that's what cybernetics is. It's like mechanism something. Humans are goal striving mechanisms, right? We will strive toward things. The thing that, and by the way, you may not even need to read the book, just listen to me now. And if you are interested, go and read it, of course, but it gets a bit boring. We are naturally goal striving beings and mechanisms. We will strive towards the thing that is set into the sat nav, right? But the way that we set our sat nav is our self image. Whatever we see ourselves as, whoever we see ourselves as, your nervous system, your body, your mind, your spirit, whatever it might be, will do whatever it can to keep you or get you to that level. That's basically the book. Obviously, it goes through a few things, but it's not as like, it doesn't give you as many techniques as I would like. But that thing that I just said is so true. You will get what you expect, basically. It goes back to all the way from the start, reality transurfing. You have to be that person first. If you're really trying to get to 20K a month, but you're at 5 right now, but your entire identity, your entire self, your self-image, everything is a 5K person, you'll stay there, because that's truly what the success mechanism has been set at. Until you start to think you are a 20K per month person, you operate, you think, all of those things, it's not going to happen. And I believe that. It's just the book's really boring. So there's the books. I'll turn them around for you if you want to take a little screenshot or whatever. Bit of a different one today. I just love books, and I wanted to share that with you. If you're still with me, as I was going halfway through there, because I'm just on a roll now, I'm just chatting to you. There was one message in here that I think is really, really powerful. So if there's anything you take away from this, if you're watching and you were hoping for some like sneaky little nuggets of gold, this is the one that I'm about to give you. Like I said, this is a instruction manual for the universe, and it's a good one. And one of the things it talks about is is importance. So it talks about how everything in the world wants to come to a level of stasis. You know, like how we have homeostasis, where the body's kind of like stable and nothing's changing around, and that makes sense. Nature balances itself out, so it's at a level of stasis. And when it is not, there will be like forces that try and bring it back. One of the things it talks about in here is lowering importance. As soon as you place too much importance on a certain goal or a certain thing, to the point where you're so nervous for it not to work out and not to happen, the universe will have its natural forces to fight against that importance and basically make you fail. And it gives a really, really good example. Let's say that there's a plank of wood on the floor, right? And I say to you, do you think you can walk over that? And you say, yeah, obviously. And you walk over it, no problem. It's just like walking on the floor, except your feet are a little bit closer together. You get over it, easy. Let's say that I put that plank of wood on top of like two 20-story buildings. We're not taking into account the wood moving. The wood stays completely still. We're not taking into account wind. There's zero wind. If I said to you, you need to go over that, how do you think you'd feel going over that? There's a very good chance that you'd be wobbling all over the place. You'd be scared, you'd be shitting yourself, and you'd be wobbling all over the place. And there's actually a very good chance that you'd actually fall off, right? Even though you do it so easily on the floor, because that you've raised your level of importance so much that you're paralyzed and you're not able to perform at your best. And that is something that I see play out all of the time for people in business as well. they want it so much that they accidentally raise their level of importance to the point where sometimes they just don't take action. Sometimes they do it, but they're so nervous that they do it wrong and everything else. Keeping that importance low is one of the biggest things, other than the mirror principle from this book. Anyway, I'm just talking now. Hope that was good. Bit of a different one. I hope it was useful.